Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Physical Therapy Lecture Series, Part 10 on tissue conditioning. So yes, how do our tissues condition? How do they strengthen? How do we get them to become more strong and resilient? Well, all cells in our tissues respond to mechanical loading, mechanical stress, or physical stress in some way, and they convert this stress into a biochemical response. It's a very complex process. It's almost amazing. It's actually miraculous how this happens. The process is known as mechanotransduction or mechanotherapy. You can look it up, you can research it yourself. It's truly, when you look at how things change on a cellular level, with this, it's beautiful. It is a miracle. So essentially, physical activity or loading, biomechanical loading, it signals the cells to lay down more tissue to better withstand the stressor next time. It's like it gives the cells instructions. It's like, hey, next time you do this, let's do it so we can do it better. We can have more strength and resilience against that stress the next time we do it. So the cells will orient and organize themselves in the direction of stress. Um, when we load things too much, of course, we all know that tissues tear, right? When we overload tissues, we overdo it, tissues can tear. Often, it takes a lot for that to happen. Oftentimes, we overload things, we just get a little more pain or sensitivity. But when we, really overload things, tissues tear. But conversely, when we don't load things enough, right, we decondition, right? Tissues atrophy, they disorganize. So we want the right amount. We want a healthy balance of loading, of physical stressors to our body. The right amount allows us to rebuild tissues for enhanced strength, resilience, and conditioning, and that's what we're going for. So one classic example of a tissue that we're all familiar with, I'm sure, that has the capacity to get stronger or weaker depending on how we stress it is bones. So what happens to our bones when we go to space? What happens to our bone density? Yes, you're right, we lose it. When we go to space, we lose bone density. Why? Well, in microgravity, right, there's not as much or very little forces going through our bones to continue that cellular stimulation, to continue more turnover in the cells, to essentially keep them strong and healthy. So you lose it. You don't use it, you lose it. And we can see here that bone diameter growth is 40% slower in space. And there's about 0.5 to 2% of our total body bone is lost per month in microgravity. So that's the effects of no loading or no stress on the bones. Um, and we all know this. I'm sure you've either yourself or you've known people who have osteopenia, osteoporosis, right? And well, they go to their physician, and what's the prescription? Well, maybe you change some things in your diet to get better nutrition, right? Get better mineral balance in your bones, more supplements, possibly. Maybe you're on a medication. And one of the prescriptions, whether it's from your physician or physical therapist, is, of course, exercise, right? Getting more gentle and progressive stress and loading on those bones to rebuild their structure, stimulate those cells to produce more thickness, right? And enhance that architecture. The cells of the bone that respond to this weight bearing and loading are called osteocytes. They're the ones that start the rebuilding process. We also have other cells and other tissues beyond bones. In cartilage, they're called chondrocytes, and muscles, they're called myocytes. And in all other tissues, we have other kinds of cells that have similar responses. I think that most people are familiar with how quickly bones and muscles can rebuild. It's kind of in our everyday vernacular, everyday awareness for most people. They're aware that, oh, you do strengthening, you can rebuild muscle. You walk more, your bones can get stronger. And in fact, muscles, I read an article just a few months ago on how there's like this really a stem cell response, even in adults, in muscles when you break them down through exercise, right? You do some weights or any kind of activity and you do a little, breaking down of them, right? That's normal with exercise. And you create this stem cell response, which rebuilds the muscles to become stronger. So it's actually a stem cell response that's very clear with muscles, and it's a beautiful process, quite complex. If you're ever interested, I'm happy to give you articles on it, but really neat. So that process happens again, not just with muscles and bones, all our cells too, to greater or lesser degrees. I think when it gets to other structures, it might take longer, or maybe it's not as perfect. Like, right, we can't, rebuild something completely, but we can still get things better or more conditioned. Like some kinds of cartilage, we can't really, fully heal a tear, but maybe we can get it better. We can get it more conditioned, healthier. So it just kind of depends on, where the tear is, what kind of tissue it's in, how bad's the tear, or whatever kind of um, whatever condition is there, and how it happened. And there are a lot of factors involved with that. But suffice it to say that we can recondition our tissues, and it goes beyond what we think. So when we look at bones, again, we're looking at, yes, we can rebuild bones through weight-bearing exercises, right? Walking, hiking, dancing, resistive training. And this is just a little picture to describe, kind of illustrate some of the stressors that we can place upon a bone that induce this biomechanical, biochemical response to create more cellular turnover through the process of Wolff's Law. And this is a great research article. And this is done on ligaments. It was done by Myrick in 2019. He studied 17 Division I female soccer athletes. I looked at their ligaments before and then at the end of the season. So the main ligament in the knee is called the ACL. All right, it helps to support and stabilize the knee with loading and twisting and impact, and especially with soccer players and basketball players. So this group, they took an MRI of these athletes of their knee before the season. They looked at the thickness of the ACL, and then they took an MRI of the knee at the end of the season and compared the difference. And really what this looked at is, hey, how did that size and structure change after all this loading, right? And impact training for a whole season. And lo and behold, you can see the ligament got thicker, right? It thickened up. It got stronger. And how amazing is that? We normally think, yeah, muscles get stronger, bones, but do we even think that ligaments can get stronger? We think, well, ligaments, hey, it's working or it's not working, right? It's there or it's not. It got ruptured, it got torn, get a surgery, get a reconstruction. But look at that. You can see that very so clearly that, before and after, a ligament actually got thicker and stronger and better. So what a great example of a tissue response to loading and stress, kind of stretching the boundaries of how we normally think about our tissues. And it's not only with ligaments, but our joints have similar responses, right? Movement of all sorts helps to lubricate our joints. Movement produces a natural WD-40 called synovial fluid or lubricin. And this fluid, it gets spread across the cartilage, making a nice slick surface, easier to move, right? Slicker, more greased up. And it also, this fluid provides the cartilage with more nutrients. It gives it more nutrition and makes the cartilage healthier. And at the same time, not just, as you know with movement, not only does it give good things into tissues, but movement also helps to get the bad stuff out. It removes the inflammatory chemicals and waste products from metabolism, or just things that kind of get bound up in there from pain. And you can think of it like squeezing a dirty sponge underneath the faucet, right? You stick a dirty sponge underneath a faucet of running water, and you open and close it a few times, and it just kind of squeeze out all that nasty stuff you don't want, and then you get a fairly clean sponge afterward. Movement does the same thing. And we can see here, this is a picture of a joint. You can imagine, like, say, a thigh bone and a shin bone here as a knee joint is one example. You've got some cartilage here in blue, right? And in the middle, you've got this fluid, the synovial fluid, and you can see how there's a lot of it, and it bathes the cartilage and just kind of fills up the entire joint. So you move more, you produce more of it, and it's actually a better quality. It's kind of like actually like motor oil, you know, when you change your oil in your car, it's of a better quality, it's cleaner, it's slicker, right? Whereas when you don't change it for a while, you know, it's thicker, it's dirtier, right? So movement gives you a better quality of synovial fluid. It's really neat. So that's joints. And of course, not only we're producing more fluid with movement and delivering more nutrients into the cartilage and getting the bad stuff out, we're also, the movement is getting a better quality of cartilage itself in the joints too. So conversely, when we don't move, okay, bad things happen. So if you look down here to the picture, yes, motion is lotion is one of our mantras, and rest is rust. So one study was done where after 9 weeks of immobilization, they looked at really kind of before and after effects of mobilization, and they found that when you immobilize a joint for 9 weeks, you lose 3% of water, 40% loss of the synovial fluid, or that fluid in the joint that we were talking about, 30% loss of the tissue in the cartilage. That's a lot, right? A lot of this ground substance, this chondroitin sulfate. There's other ones too. That's just one of them. So some of the loss of the substance of the tissue, along with other tissue substance, the collagen, 14% loss. Whoops. And then there's, as that happens, as we lose those things, there is this infiltration. There's this increase in fatty tissue and scar tissue. So we, you know, we lose the good things and we get more of the bad stuff, and that's just no good. So we want to avoid these effects of deconditioning and immobilization as best we can. So that's why even when you're in a flare up, right, keep moving. Just don't move as much. Just do a little bit, just so you're still kind of moving stuff and maintaining some ground. And then we look at discs. Here's a picture from the top down of a disc to give you a general idea of what it is. We get the outside, the annulus, which is a series of a lot of fibers, collagenous fibers that strengthen and give it resilience. And the inside's a little more gelatinous, fluid-filled, called the nucleus. Here's a side view of the spine, kind of looking at it from the side there. And you can see you've got these fibers, these collagenous fibers that surround the outer part of it. That just give you a sense of what it looks like. You know, these fibers actually kind of go at 20 to 30 degree angles all around the disc. They're called lamellae. And believe it or not, these fibers can actually get a little bit stronger, more conditioned through certain exercises. There are certain exercises that are good for discs, just like different exercises are good for muscles or ligaments or joints. Certain exercises can kind of create a stimulus along the lines of these fibers to get them more resilient. Certain rotational movements, sometimes back bend, it just depends on the condition. But yes, we can specify movements to different tissues. Uh, so this is just a study saying how, yeah, we found through exercise that we can stimulate more blood flow to the discs, right? We can get more nutrients and blood flow to discs, and here's why. Well, there's no direct blood supply to discs. It kind of happens peripherally. There's a lot of blood vessels around the disc, but when we move, we pump blood and nutrients into the disc through a process called imbibition. All right, the kind of closing and opening or squeezing of the sponge, so to speak, the movement feeds and pumps good things in to the disc: blood, nutrients, fluids, etc., keeps them well hydrated, fluffy and puffy, right? Whatever, keeps them in good shape for us. And it also removes some of these metabolic waste products and chemical irritants that can be kind of tough on sensitive nerves. So really good things happen with movements, right? It helps to keep discs hydrated and stimulates cellular activity in the outsides of the disc and the cellular matrix. And not only that, but of course, can't forget about the bones surrounding the disc. The vertebra is going to keep them stronger. It's going to keep better microcirculation. So going to keep the muscles more toned in the spine. I mean, we can just keep going on and on and on about this. And I think that's a good place to leave off for now. So we're going to pick up next lecture on the topic of tissue issues or pain issues. But I want you just to leave with a thought of how it's, all of our tissues in our body to a greater or lesser degree can recondition or at least get more tolerant to loads, stressors, mechanics, activities, even if it's imperfect, even if there's still some imperfections or tears or strains, we can work with it, right? We can work with it, and we can raise the capacity of its tolerance um, in ways that you couldn't imagine. So hopefully you enjoyed this lecture, and I will see you soon for the next one.